I can already hear you asking, fiber? What does that have to do with anything, especially fighting invisible woman syndrome and aging like a supernova? I'm glad you asked. We need to quickly talk about invisible woman syndrome. Well, it pretty much happens, I don't know, the nanosecond you turn 50. Poof! You disappear! Bye-bye. It was Paulina Porizkova, the gorgeous supermodel who noted it was around the time her husband lost interest in her. She looked around at society at large and found that, yes, she had become invisible. I had two reactions, one of which is, if it's going to happen to her, gorgeous Paulina, what hope is there for the rest of us mere mortals? And actually, the second reaction I had was, woohoo! This is awesome! I can be out in public, I can be invisible, no one's telling me, smile, I don't want to smile. I could go to get a coffee and not have offers of unwanted company. Oh, thanks, I'm flattered. Yeah, no thanks. But, you knew there was a but coming. It's great until it isn't, especially when it comes to work. You become treated like you don't matter. You feel irrelevant. And that is no bueno. That we need to put a stop to. So many women report feeling invisible as they get older, a good 70%, which I think is probably on the low end. Welcome to Fiber and Aging Like a Supernova. I am Yulian Y, the author of Age Like a Supernova and the TLDR sort of quick and dirty version, Become Uninvisible. I wrote Age Like a Supernova detailing what I did when I was struck with invisible woman syndrome. And it kind of comes down to feeling amazing. When you start to feel amazing and you feel uninvisible, you can become uninvisible. And then that's when you become so uninvisible, you're a bright, sparkly, shiny supernova that can't be ignored, is not irrelevant, and you have the power to make your mark on the world, supernova style. Now, my plan for fiber is actually super easy. Yes, it involves dietary fiber, not the sexiest of nutrients, but when we talk about some of the science, you'll see it's super sexy. Fiber needs rebranding from Grandma Roughage, and we're the ones to do it, right? The first thing I want you to do is indulge me. Really quickly, close your eyes and imagine yourself at your most visible. You're juicy, you're fabulous, you're making your mark and having your way with the world, which is what it's all about, right? And think for a minute, like, where in your body is that feeling? What are you doing? So freeze that. Like, I've always wanted to do that, like, pretend I'm a director. So freeze that image. Shoop. And then what I invite you to do is find some kind of a picture that sums up that feeling for you and make that your saver on your phone. Every time you look at your phone, you'll be reminded of yourself as a sparkly, sassy supernova. And we look at our phones, 2 gazillion times a day. So you'll have 2 gazillion reminders of you, supernova. My promise to you for today, I'll give you the science and evidence-based info on fiber, muscle, and aging so that you can make the smartest, coolest, most amazing choices for yourself as a supernova, becoming a supernova. What, I hear you asking, does fiber have to do with aging well and muscle? First order of business, let's talk about some of the main myths regarding dietary fiber. Let's put some of those to bed, shall we? Myth number 1. The main reason to have dietary fiber is just for pooping, for being regular. Au contraire. On the list of all the reasons to have fiber, there are better reasons, really amazing reasons to add fiber to your life. Check out this amazing study. They found that for every additional 10 grams of fiber that people ate, they reduced their risk of all-cause mortality, so death from everything, by 10%. And if they increase their fiber consumption by 20 grams, it was a 20% reduction in risk. Obviously, it doesn't lead to immortality, but what it does do is make you a lot more Grim Reaper proof for longer. The Grim Reaper will come for us all, but we can put off when it comes and enjoy the journey there. Myth number 2. Fiber is fiber is fiber is fiber. Yada, yada, yada. Actually, there are 3 kinds of fibers, all equally important. There's soluble fiber, which when you mix it with water, it kind of turns into a goo. Most all fruits and veggies, lentils, beans contain soluble fiber, and it has really good outcomes in terms of helping to lower cholesterol. Then there's insoluble, which was what Grandma called roughage, from whole wheat, bran, and doesn't dissolve in water. Super important for feeding your gut microbes. And then the third is resistant starch, which is not technically a fiber. It's a carbohydrate. It behaves like one. If you have potatoes that are cooked and cooled, or rice that's cooked and cooled, it creates this resistant starch. It ferments in your gut and produces these compounds called short-chain fatty acids that are nothing short of miraculous. Affects it on everything from your muscle to your brain to your overall health. So fiber is fiber is fiber. No. Myth number 4. So I have my 3 different types of fibers. I'm good to go, right? Not so fast. This is Rob Knight. He helped co-found the American Gut Project, and he was saying that you need a variety. So we don't just need the 3 types and enough quantity, we also need variety, and the variety will feed a number of different types of microbes in our guts. People who consume different types of plant fibers and resistant fibers do much better. Typically, we tend to have about 10 or less of the same fibers. If you eat an apple every day, or you have the same oatmeal for breakfast every day, chances are you're probably having around the same 10 fibers. So what you want to do is have as wide a variety as possible to help your gut microbes to thrive. The more short-chain fatty acids, the more happy outcomes. Instead of focusing your eating on just a couple different types of fiber, buy a little of a lot. It's a good excuse to try new and different sources of fiber, new and different veggies that you've never tried before, fruits. All right, next myth. So fiber just has to do with your gut, right? No. That's a myth we need to dispel today. These short-chain fatty acids that our microbes produce, when our microbes are fed all the food they want, they produce short-chain fatty acids. Those go off into circulation and they improve blood glucose control, so it lowers your risk of becoming insulin resistant or getting diabetes when you're older, and it lowers your cholesterol. And heart disease is the number 1 killer. So LDL in particular is thought to be a risk factor, not just associated with heart disease, but a risk factor for that. So fiber definitely helps with that. When they look at healthy centenarians from around the world, regardless of where they live, the healthiest, happiest centenarians have the most richly diverse. Your gut microbiota also are associated with depression. So there's a reduction in depression and anxiety when people increase the amount and variety of fiber that they're consuming. Low fiber and Alzheimer's unfortunately keep company. So if you want to keep your wits about you as you get older, have a rich fiber diet. And the surprising one that I think doesn't get talked about enough is the relationship between dietary fiber, microbes, microbe variety, and age-related muscle loss, sarcopenia. Increasing dietary fiber is a way to prevent loss of muscle. Muscle is our very own super medicine for helping to reduce, if not prevent, age-related loss of muscle and frailty, becoming frail, falling, breaking a hip. If you end up in the hospital when you're older for breaking a hip, I'm not going to say it's like you signed your own death warrant, but let's just put it this way. It's bad, bad, bad outcomes. Yeah, no thank you. I'd rather be a gym bro, I think. And finally, our last myth. Fiber and aging like a supernova. Yeah, what on earth are you on about, girl? I'm so glad you asked, because that brings us to my simple but effective plan, which I call 3 steps to microbe management. You like that? Microbe management. I'm a sucker for alliteration. Step number 1 is go 30 for 30. Have at least 30 grams of fiber a day minimum, and have at least 30 different types of fiber per week. When I say go 30 for 30, as we saw from that first study, every 10 gram increase in dietary fiber is a 10% reduction in risk of all-cause mortality. I would actually love to say go 60 for 30, but that doesn't kind of have the same catchiness. But I would say 30 should be your basement minimum. 30 grams of fiber per day, 30 different types per week. Now, people generally are eating far less than that. The RDA is around 32 to 35 grams per day, and people aren't even coming close. I've read a lot of things that people are under 20 grams of fiber a day. They are just starving their gut microbiota. They can't do their health promoting job if we don't feed the little. When you are looking at your variety of 30 different ones per week, think about feeding your eyes with all the colors and exciting your taste buds. Everything from sweet to umami. Mushrooms have that sort of meaty taste. Why do our microbes need so much variety and quantity? Well, our microbes have evolved with us. Our microbes have been with us for millions of years. If modern day hunter-gatherer eating habits are anything to judge by, we ate a lot of fiber back in the day. And when they look at the Hadza of Tanzania during the wet season, when there's more greens and tubers, vines, gourds, fruit, berries, a huge amount and variety of fiber, they can have between 100 and 150 grams of fiber per day. And that's what our microbe partners in crime evolved to expect at meal times, was plentiful fiber and a lot of variety. And now we're starving them. So in some cases we're starving them out of extinction. In other cases they just go dormant. I feel like they're hibernating while they're waiting around to be fed. You don't obviously need to eat 100 to 150 grams of fiber, but they did find getting up to around 50 grams is associated with lower risk, especially of colon cancer. Dr. Chutkan here, she's a gastroenterologist. In her book, The Microbiome Solution, what she recommends to her patients is following her 1-2-3 rule, having 1 vegetable at breakfast, 2 at lunch, and 3 at dinner. So maybe if you have a smoothie in the morning, throw in some kale. You have an omelet, add some spinach and other veggies. At lunch, I like having like carrot sticks to crunch on, or some cherry tomatoes. Jicama as well is a good alternative. It's super high in fiber. And then at dinner, maybe have a side of steamed asparagus and a large salad. And then you would at least meet your 5. I think Dr. Robbins' 1-2-3 rule is not a bad way to approach getting in your 30 grams minimum per day and your 30 different types per week. I created a little cheat sheet, a fiber cheat sheet that sort of outlines easy ways to get your variety in and quantity. You'll learn things like berries, super high in fiber, avocados, great source of fiber, jicama, and what type of servings give you how much fiber. Just go to age.com/fiber, spelled the American way, FIBER. So sorry, British supernovas. I made it short, sweet, and to the point. If you're not sure about the whole fiber thing, download it for free and get started on your fiberline journey. Which brings us to step 2 of my microbe management plan. Step 1, go 30 for 30, get your quantity and variety. Step number 2 is eat fermented stuff. 6 servings a day. And before you're like, 6 servings, are you out of your mind? Well, probably out of my mind, yes. But 6 servings, as we'll see, is really not that much. So hold the phone there. Stanford University did this really cool study, the fermented and fiber-rich food study. They called it the FeFiFo study. It was Chris Gardner's lab. He does a lot of really interesting research on nutrition. And this lab where they study microbes, the Sonnenberg lab. And they had people in 2 different groups where they fed them a lot of fiber and then fermented foods. The fermented food arm of the study is what really caught my attention. They had people ramp up to 6 servings a day. A half a cup of cottage cheese is a serving. A quarter cup, so a really small amount of sauerkraut is a serving. A little bottle of kombucha, kefir, yogurt, the usual suspects. And they found that their microbial diversity exploded. And it was microbes that were already present in their guts, that it's like we fed them and coaxed them out of hibernation. And most importantly, their markers of inflammation went way down. What is this 6 servings of fermented food business look like? You could have a quarter cup of kimchi, sauerkraut, tempeh. A quarter cup is just like a really small little amount on your plate. And anytime I've traveled and gotten sauerkraut, it's usually 2 servings worth. You could have half a cup of cottage cheese. You could have some buttermilk or yogurt, a little shot glass of veggie brine. Have some with each meal. Boom, you can hit your 6. And if you're having things like pickles or sauerkraut, that also counts towards your 30 for 30. Now, why do fermented food instead of just popping a probiotic? Well, there's 2 things to bear in mind. Popping a pill is going after an endpoint, which is not the same as activating the whole system, having the fermented foods and the fiber, creating the short-chain fatty acids, and then they go around the body. That's activating the whole system in ways that we can't really replicate. And the second thing is commercial probiotics. If the pill contains microbes already in your gut, they are not letting these interlopers in. They will make sure that those ones from the pill can't colonize. It's called colonization resistance, aka expensive pee. You're much better off just having stuff that's fermented. It's also super easy, actually, to make your own sauerkraut. This is Sandor Katz, whose nickname is Sandorkraut. And he probably has done more than anyone to put fermenting things on the popular map. I recommend wild fermentation. He shows you how to ferment everything, from sourdough bread to veggies. You can pickle stuff, you can make yogurts. Wild fermentation is my go-to. I do love this book, Cultured. She did an awesome job of really highlighting how if you add fermented veggies or you add fermented bean pastes, you can zhuzh up. And yes, that's a word. You can zhuzh up dishes and make your food a lot more exciting. All right, step 3. We went 30 for 30. We have our quantity and our variety. We're eating our fermented fare, 6 servings a day. Pro tip, don't do it all at once. Ramp up slowly. Trust me. And then the third is time to dig in the soil and get gardening. Gardeners tend to have more diverse microbiomes. When they tested gardeners and looked at the quality of their gut microbiome, they found they're populated with more bacteria and a larger variety. They had a lot of species that were unidentified. So they definitely have healthier, more diverse, and lush gut microbiomes. So you might join a community garden. You could start a container garden if you've got any place, a windowsill, fire escape. If you're in New York, one of my friends, Cook, grew all sorts of stuff on his fire escape. Not sure how legal that is, but he had a really nice container garden. So you want to think about helping to contribute to the happiness and health of your microbiome. The soil is like the Earth's microbiome, so you can think of it that way. If you do start growing a lot more food, or you have all this produce, you went 30 for 30, and you're like, what on earth do I do with all this? In Age Like a Supernova, I put together a vetted list of cookbooks from around the world. It's traditional recipes from different countries. It's a great way to just explore new cuisines, new dishes, and use all that produce that's now on the menu. Time to put your chef hat on and get your cooking on. And all of these cookbooks are available as ebooks. All right, quick little review for managing your microbes. Go 30 for 30, get your quantity and variety in. Eat your fermented stuff and get gardening. Okay. I think it's time for a success story or two, don't you? Improving your life through the magic power of fiber. This is Dr. B in Fiber Fueled. He specializes in gut issues, and he tells the story of one patient who had just so many issues. She was overweight, meds, irritable bowel, type 2 diabetes, anxiety, and depression. Her primary care provider had been slowly limiting what she was eating, to the point where she just was not getting the quantity of fiber or the variety. So her microbes were either dying off or hibernating. They were not happy. So what Dr. B did is he slowly reintroduced lentils and legumes, beans, grains, fruits and veggies, really expanded the quantity and variety. And not surprisingly, the excess pounds started to vanish. Her meds dosages went down, her energy was up, and most importantly, she started feeling like herself again. She was excited about the future. And I think that is a priceless gift. And that was because he helped her manage and incorporate the quantity and variety of fiber back into her life. In a lot of ways, I think he helped give her life back. In the microbiome solution, Dr. Chukhan talks about what changed her worldview. She said when she was early in her career as a gastroenterologist, she always had her prescription pad at the ready. And then she had this patient with aggressive Crohn's who, I guess, had gone off and come back to see her, and had, using diet, put her condition into remission. She ate a lot of veggies, fruits, nuts, some lentils, rice, resistant starch. And Dr. Chukhan said every time she examined her, it was in remission. And she said that was really pivotal for changing her perspective about the power of nutrition, and in particular dietary fiber. And then this, I love, shows the power of get gardening. It took place in Finland, and they took children at daycare centers and they gave them a month-long biodiversity intervention. The children were given wild berries and mosses from the forest floor, peat blocks that they could climb on. They had planters to plant annuals, berries, heathers, all different things. They gave them 90 minutes a day to play outside with these green materials. How cool is that? Like 90 minutes a day outside. And so they planted things and they climbed on the blocks and they crafted with the natural materials. And in just a month, I think this is amazing, their gut microbiomes improved and their immunity improved. So, yeah. Get digging, like the Finnish kids. Dr. Mayer here wrote this really interesting book, The Gut Immune Connection. He has a good video podcast. He has good guests. I do like it. And he has this really interesting idea in it called One Health. It's this idea that the microbiome of the earth, the soil, and the plants, the environment, and our microbiomes, so us and the animals, it's all part of this interconnected global network. It's constantly communicating in this universal, what he calls this universal biological language, of microbes. So by healing your own gut, you're doing the earth and the environment and everyone else part of this network a solid. What if you ignore all this fiber business and just keep eating the way we've always been eating? The scary standard westernized diet. For starters, it means you're eating way less than the 30 per day, often under 20. Now this picture, this is a super interesting picture. This was taken at the Sonnenberg lab at Stanford. Remember the FeFiFo study? It's taken inside a gut, and the blue part would be you, the host. The Skittles on the left, the colorful Skittles, those are gut microbes. Our gut microbes are hardworking as long as they're not in our bloodstream. And what keeps them on their side of the fence and us on our side is that green fence. It's made of mucus, and it is a protective barrier. However, the protective barrier is currently under threat. In the days of yore, when we ate more like the Hadza and had copious amounts of fiber in a large variety, the microbes were happy and fed and created the short chain fatty acids. However, microbiomes are flexible, and when you starve the good microbes, the mix changes in your gut, and the ones that become dominant, they like to eat not the fiber we eat necessarily, they like eating the mucus barrier. As that becomes thinner and thinner, you can see all the Skittles are no longer kept separate from the blue part. They rush in, they get into the blood supply, and you get all sorts of viruses, giardia, oh my God, various different types of fungus, all get into your blood supply thanks to leaky gut. And that contributes massively to inflammation, cardiovascular disease, respiratory disease, diabetes, cancer. By eating low fiber, you're encouraging the population of microbes in your gut to be the ones that basically promote leaky gut by eating away at our protective mucus barrier. Now I will share with you my favorite high fiber breakfast. My favorite easy breakfast is overnight oats. I change them up every day. I buy a variety of them and some low-fat yogurt for my fermented foods, and then 2 scoops of a high-quality whey protein isolate. I either like Dimetize or Optimum Nutrition. Those are my 2 go-tos. And that gives me 50 grams or more of high-quality protein in the morning to stop my muscles from overnight muscle breakdown. It's high fiber plus fermented food, so it kind of hits on all cylinders. I was never, before I started this journey to Supernova, much of a breakfast person, so this is like a happy medium. I'm doing my body a favor I'm not a steak and eggs or big fry up kind of breakfast person. My breakfast was always black coffee and more black coffee. So this is how I get my day off to a good start, muscle-wise and fiber-wise. I hope you enjoyed learning the fiber truth, that fiber, enough of it, and having a variety is hugely important, not just for your gut microbiome, but for preventing leaky gut, fighting off Alzheimer's, depression, anxiety, and staving off age-related muscle loss, sarcopenia, and frailty. For me, fiber, that's in the God tier level of things that you can do every day that help you feel your most supernova-y. If you do my Microbe Management Plan, this is a transformation you can expect to go from feeling less than to feeling your most uninvisible, most supernova-y. When you feel like a supernova, you can make your mark on the world like one. Now what? The free stuff. Hello. There's my handy fiber playbook, PDF, free, that will help get you started and going on your fiber-rich journey. And if you want the resources and links and credits for today's class, because I always try and bring the receipts, just go to agelikeasupernova /masterclasses, and you can download that PDF. That will take you to every citation and paper that I used to come up with my plan. You can read all of my sources, and I've annotated some of the footnotes as I was putting this together. I hope you enjoyed today's masterclass. I hope it was helpful, and I hope it gets you as excited about fiber as I am. Masterclass number 4, we're going to be talking about anti-aging supplements. They're science-based, they're powerful, and they're not your usual ones. And then we're going to talk about some that I think are just snake oil dressed up in more snake oil by people who just want to take your money away from you without giving you anything in return. One in particular that no one will come out and say it was based on fraud, but I'll present to you the evidence so you can decide it for yourself. But more importantly, let's talk about things that move the needle and are based on science so we can feel our most supernovae. You can also download Become Uninvisible, my TLDR handbook, if you will, on how I eat and train to feel supernovae, all very science-based, science-backed. And of course you can download my book or read it for free on my website, Age Like a Supernova. I have it available for sale on Amazon if you want to help support this channel. If not, though, what's important to me is spreading the word of awesome to help all of us, even if the rest of everyone doesn't see us. I see you, we see each other. And we need to become uninvisible so we can make our mark like a, yes, bright, shiny, sparkly, saucy supernova. Until next time, remember, eat your protein, lift your weights, manage your microbes, and most importantly, get your supernova on.